Sure. Below is section 1 of the script, minimum 760 words, written in a direct, emotionally rich, and focused narrative style. No fluff, no repetition, only story-driven, high-quality prose in the first person. They say temptation only works on the broken. I didn't feel broken until I met him at the gym. I used to think marriage was supposed to mellow with time, settle into something safe. Derek and I had been together for 8 years. He was stable, responsible, always the provider. We used to laugh more, talk about everything. But lately, the conversations barely left the surface. Did you pay the electric bill? What time's your meeting? Can you grab milk? No warmth. No spark. No us. I tried not to let it bother me. Life gets busy. People change. But what I couldn't ignore was how invisible I felt around him. I'd dress up and get no reaction. I'd reach for his hand, and he'd pull away without noticing. The nights turned cold, and not because of the weather. It was like lying beside a ghost, warm body, cold soul. Sex? Maybe once every couple of months. Quick. Routine. No eye contact. He didn't even notice when I stopped initiating. I told myself I wasn't going to beg to be desired. Jenna, my best friend since college, noticed. Girl, you're glowing, but you're dying inside, she said bluntly. She knew me too well. I told her I didn't know what I was feeling, just numb. She told me to do something for myself, something selfish. Start moving your body again. Do something that reminds you you're alive. The gym wasn't my scene. I went reluctantly, unsure of what I was even looking for. Maybe just to see who I used to be. The first day was awkward. Everyone seemed confident, like they belonged. I was in a baggy tee and old sneakers, trying to remember how to breathe through squats, and then I noticed him. He wasn't like the other trainers. He didn't strut. He didn't shout. He moved like he owned the space without needing anyone to say so. Tall, broad shoulders, tattoos just peeking beneath his sleeves. He caught me looking and smiled. Not a flirty smile, just soft, like he saw me and wanted me to know. The next time he came over. Mind if I help with your form? He asked, voice deep but kind. I nodded, and he placed his hand lightly on my back. Just enough pressure to guide, not control. I felt it shoot through me like static. When our eyes met, I felt like I was standing too close to something dangerous, but thrilling. His name was Eli. He remembered mine immediately. He didn't ask personal questions. He complimented effort, not appearance. But something about the way he looked at me, it wasn't polite. It was intentional. Like he noticed the way my breath caught, the way my hands fidgeted. Like he knew I hadn't felt wanted in a long time. I started going more often. Every other day became daily. I told Derek I was just trying to stay healthy. He barely nodded, eyes glued to his laptop. That's good, he said flatly. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, undressed, and studied myself. I still had curves. Still had softness. I touched my lips and thought of how Eli's eyes lingered on them. It was stupid, really, how fast a look could become a thought, and how quickly a thought could turn into a craving. But it wasn't even about lust, not yet. It was about attention. Presence. Being seen. Eli started meeting me near the weights, sometimes even waiting. He never crossed a line. But when he asked, "You doing okay today?" it felt more intimate than anything Derek had said to me in months. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say I wasn't okay. That I felt like a ghost in my own house. That I wanted someone to look at me like I mattered, but I didn't. I just smiled, said, "I'm fine." One day, he handed me a towel without asking. I brushed his hand, and for a second, we both paused. I could feel his pulse in his fingertips. That single touch, so brief, stayed with me the entire night. I started dreaming about him. Nothing graphic, just moments. Him leaning in, whispering something only I could hear. Me laughing, feeling free. I'd wake up and stare at the ceiling while Derek snored beside me. I didn't plan to fall into anything. I wasn't chasing an affair. I was just chasing a version of myself I hadn't seen in years, but the truth is, I already knew something had changed. I could have stopped it then. Could have pulled back. I didn't. I didn't even want to. I bit my lip every time I saw him. At his size. At the gravity he carried. At how small I felt near him, but in the best possible way, and every day, I stepped a little closer towards something I didn't fully understand, but desperately wanted. Let me know when you're ready for section 2. Here is section 2 of the script, following your instructions, clean, emotionally charged, and strictly to the point, with no repetition and a word count of at least 760 words. I started arriving at the gym earlier, pretending it was for the treadmill. But really, I just wanted those extra few minutes around him. Eli always noticed. He'd nod from across the room like we shared a secret. I told myself it was harmless. A look wasn't a betrayal. A smile couldn't ruin a marriage, but it was more than smiles. I started talking to him between sets. About nothing important, music, weather, the pain in my lower back. But every conversation lasted a little longer. Every word he said pulled me in. He listened. Not just to respond, but to understand. That alone felt dangerous. He told me I had good form for someone who hadn't trained in years. I laughed, told him I used to be confident. He said, I can still see it. That stayed with me. Not because it was flattering, but because it sounded like he meant it. Derek never noticed my progress. Never asked how it was going. One night, I came home late, sweaty and flushed. He didn't even look up. Just muttered, "You're back early." I went upstairs, stared at myself in the mirror, and whispered, "This isn't working." Not the marriage. Not the pretending. I started fantasizing about Eli. Not just about touching him, but about being with someone who actually wanted me. It was subtle at first. How he'd stand close when he talked. How his voice dropped just enough to make my stomach tighten. The way he said my name like it mattered. It happened after a late session. I stayed behind to stretch, trying to quiet my mind. He walked over with a smoothie and handed it to me. I asked why. He said, "Because I like seeing you smile." I didn't smile. I just stared at him, searching for the line we hadn't crossed yet. He sat beside me. His shoulder brushed mine. I didn't move away. We talked. I told him I felt stuck. That I was tired of being tired. He didn't ask about Derek. He didn't need to. His eyes said he already knew. And when the silence stretched, he reached up and brushed my hair from my face. His hand lingered. I didn't stop him. When he leaned in, I froze for half a second. I should have turned away. But I didn't. I tilted my head toward him, like it was natural. Like I'd done it 1,000 times in my mind already. The kiss wasn't soft. It wasn't rushed either. It was steady. Like he'd been waiting. And when his hands found my waist, I felt like I hadn't been touched in years. Not like that. Not with intention. I pulled back, breathless. I expected guilt. What I felt was hunger. He whispered, "Say something." I couldn't. My voice felt lodged in my throat. I followed him out of the gym without thinking. We didn't talk during the ride. My heart pounded so loud it felt like sound. I watched the streetlights flicker against his skin and wondered what it would feel like to let go completely. At his place, I hesitated. Just for a second. He opened the door, and I stepped in. The air changed. He kissed me again, harder this time. My back met the wall. His hands gripped my hips like he'd been memorizing them from a distance. Everything was heat, breath, tension. I remember the way his fingers slid under my shirt, how deliberate he was. How he didn't rush. I bit my lip when I saw him fully, at his size, his strength, the weight of him against me. It wasn't just his body. It was the way he moved, the way he looked at me like I was something to be unwrapped slowly. I didn't say no. I didn't even think the word. It was desperate and quiet. Like we both knew it couldn't last, but we needed to burn through it anyway. Every second felt like something stolen. Every touch felt earned. When it was over, I didn't speak. Neither did he. I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, chest rising and falling like I'd just run a marathon. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Full of meaning. Full of everything I'd been craving. And something else, regret, not loud. Not immediate. But it crept in through the cracks. I wasn't proud. I wasn't even relieved. I felt changed. Like something permanent had happened. I dressed slowly, avoiding his eyes. He walked me to the door but didn't ask if I'd be back. That made it worse. The air outside felt colder than it should have. My phone buzzed. It was Derek, asking if I could grab bread on the way home. I didn't answer. I just stood there, holding my keys, wondering when exactly I stopped being the kind of woman who would say no, and why. In that moment, I didn't care. Let me know when you're ready for section 3.
Here is section 3 of the script, as requested. It stays sharp, emotionally grounded, and focused, no repetition or filler, with a word count of at least 760 words. I didn't go back to the gym the next day. Or the one after. I deleted Eli's number, but I didn't need it to remember everything. My body already had. The way he touched me still echoed under my skin. The sound of his voice lingered in quiet moments, especially when Derek sat beside me in silence, scrolling through his phone, completely unaware that I was somewhere else entirely. I thought I could bury it. Pretend it didn't happen. Keep moving. But the guilt had its own rhythm. It wasn't screaming. It was whispering. In the mirror. In my coffee. In the way I avoided eye contact at breakfast. Derek noticed eventually. Not the affair. Just the change. You okay? He asked once, without looking up from his plate. I nodded. Just tired. I started crying in the shower at night. It was the only place I could break without being seen. The steam fogged the mirror and blurred the shame. I tried scrubbing my skin until it hurt, like maybe I could wash the memory off. But it was deeper than skin. I had let someone into a place that wasn't just physical. That was the part one couldn't erase. Jenna asked me what was wrong. I didn't lie. I told her everything. She listened quietly, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she stared at me like she didn't know what to say. Are you going to tell him? She asked. I said I didn't know. She told me not to. Said people make mistakes. Said I'd only hurt him more. Protect what you have left. That's what she called it. But I didn't feel like I had anything left to protect. I couldn't keep carrying it. I started writing a letter, then tore it up. I rehearsed the words in my head, over and over, but they never sounded right. There's no graceful way to say, I let someone else touch me because I felt invisible. No gentle way to admit you stopped trying to be faithful before you ever acted on it. So I told him. We were in the kitchen. He was making coffee. I just said it, quiet, like I wasn't even sure I had spoken aloud. I cheated on you. I saw the pause in his body before the words landed. His back straightened. The spoon in his hand clinked against the mug. He didn't say anything. Not right away. When he turned to look at me, there was no anger on his face. No explosion. Just something colder. Disbelief, maybe. Distance. I would have preferred screaming. How long? That was all he asked. I told him it happened once. That I ended it. That I hated myself for it. That I didn't even know why I did it until it was already done. He didn't ask for details. Didn't want names. He just stared at me like I was a stranger. Then he walked out. No words. No slammed doors. Just silence. I sat on the floor afterward, knees pulled to my chest. I didn't cry. I just stared at the spot where he had been, wondering if I had finally broken something that couldn't be fixed. Days passed. He didn't come home. He texted once to say he needed space. I didn't respond. I couldn't blame him. I just waited. Hoping for something. Forgiveness, maybe. Closure. Even punishment would have felt better than this hollow quiet. I kept replaying everything. Not just the night with Eli, but all the moments that led to it. The ignored conversations. The way Derek and I stopped touching, stopped asking, stopped being curious about each other. I wanted to believe I was pushed into it. That I was lonely, neglected, forgotten, but the truth is, I made the choice. Eli wasn't the problem. He was the symptom. The crack I fell through because I didn't know how to ask to be seen anymore. Because it was easier to feel desired by a stranger than to rebuild something that had already started to rot. I still think about that night. Not because I miss it. Not because I'd do it again. But because it showed me something I was too afraid to admit before. It wasn't just about being touched. It was about being wanted, without question, without duty, without obligation. I don't know if Derek will ever come back. If he does, I'll have to live with the look he gave me. The one that said I shattered something sacred, and if he doesn't come back, I'll live with the knowledge that I traded loyalty for a moment of feeling alive. I bit my lip at his size, and didn't push him away. I told myself it meant something. But in the end, all it did was remind me how empty I had become. And how far I was willing to go to feel full, even for just a night. Let me know if you'd like the full script compiled or formatted for voiceover delivery. Here is section 4 of the script, continuing from the previous acts with the same style, sharp, emotionally layered, and without repetition or unnecessary padding. Word count is at least 760 words. He came back after 4 days. No warning. Just the sound of keys in the lock and the quiet creak of the door. I looked up from the couch, heart lodged in my throat. He didn't say anything. Just walked in, set down his bag, and looked at me like he didn't know where to start. I didn't move. Didn't speak. I waited. He asked, "Did you love him?" I shook my head. No. I barely knew him. He sat down across from me, and for the first time in a long time, he really looked at me. Not past me. Not through me. At me. "You could have just said something," he said, voice steady, almost too calm. I didn't know it was that bad. I nodded. Neither did I. Not until I did what I did. We sat in silence. The weight of it pressed against my chest. He looked tired, older somehow. Like the space between us had aged us both. "Do you want to fix this?" he asked. I hesitated, because I wasn't sure if I deserved to answer yes. But I said it anyway. "I do." He didn't answer. He stood, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water. When he came back, he said, "Then it's going to take time." A lot of it. The next few days were strange. He didn't sleep in our bed. He didn't touch me. But he was there. Present. Watching. Processing. I gave him space, and he didn't ask for explanations. Maybe he didn't want them. Maybe he already understood more than I ever gave him credit for. I started writing things down. Things I should have said earlier. That I felt invisible. That I missed who we used to be. That I needed more than habit and routine. I left the note on the counter. He read it. I know, because the next day he left one of his own. "You should have said something sooner. But I should have noticed before you had to. We didn't heal overnight. Some mornings were awkward. Some nights were silent. But slowly, things began to shift. We talked. Not just about schedules and bills, but about us. Where we went wrong. Where we stopped showing up for each other. He told me he hadn't touched me because he didn't think I wanted him anymore. That every time he reached out, he felt like he was bothering me. I told him I felt like I was always reaching out and getting nothing in return. We'd both been waiting for the other to notice the distance. It wasn't easy, being honest. Telling him how long I'd felt alone. Telling him how it started with needing attention, but it ended with a decision I couldn't undo. He listened. Some of it hurt. I could see it on his face. But he didn't walk away. I didn't go back to Eli. I didn't answer when he texted. I deleted the message without reading it. Whatever that night was, it belonged to a version of me I was trying to leave behind. I focused on us. I showed up. I cooked. I asked about his day. I stopped expecting him to guess what I needed. He responded, slowly at first, like he didn't know if it was safe to try again. But then he started showing up too. One night, he stood behind me in the kitchen, hands on my waist. The first time he touched me since everything. It wasn't sexual. It was grounding. I leaned back into him, and he didn't pull away. We went to therapy together. At first, I thought it was just for closure. But session by session, we started rebuilding something that felt less like repair and more like discovery. Not the old marriage. A new one. One where we said the hard things out loud. There are still days where guilt finds me. Random moments. A smell. A thought. A memory I didn't ask for. But I don't run from it. I let it pass. Because facing it is part of the price of moving forward. I know I'll never forget what I did. But I also know what I almost lost. And somehow, the wreckage made room for honesty. For vulnerability. For us. I used to think love was about not making mistakes. But real love the kind that survives, is about what you do after the mistakes. Who you become after the damage. I'm not proud of what I did. But I'm proud of what we are building now, and every day, I remind myself, when something feels broken, you speak. You fight. You don't look for someone else to see you. You stand in front of the one who forgot, and remind them who you are. Let me know if you'd like all 4 sections compiled into one final formatted script for narration.